Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of My Little Garden, and in today's episode we will be looking at seedlings, sowing seeds, different types of pot and propagators, and also planting up the raised bed, most of the raised bed to be honest, and basically how to turn your seeds on that so they become that. Of course, like these, they get even bigger. The next stage after that is why you do it, and that's to eat it and enjoy. So this is a long episode, but there's a lot in it, so feel free to watch it a bit at a time, take in what you need. I'm not saying all the information I give is the absolute ultimate correct way, but it's just the way that I've always done things and it seems to work for me. But we're always learning, everyone always learns. You learn by your mistakes as you go along, and everyone's ground's a little bit different and the weather's always on the change. So I hope you enjoy this episode. So we're going to start off with pots. Right, let's have a look at some pots and trays, and different things you can grow in, things that are laying around the house. So this is all to be done as cheap a way as you can. Whatever you can afford, fine. If you can't really afford it, just use what you've got. Right, so first of all we'll start with the regular thing, which is a plant pot. Sorry, it's a bit dirty, it's not been cleaned. This is a 8cm plant pot. You can buy a stack of these from B&M Bargains for about £1. Brilliant, very good. You can also buy a tray like one of these, which I'll just get out. Now Asda was selling these for £2. There's no lid for it, and underneath the water can drain out, so just be warned if you're going to get something like this and you put it on a worktop or a windowsill, that when you water it, it might all come through. So best way to get a tray for it to sit on. Individual pots that come out, 3 little drainage holes. They're probably about 6cm pots, then 5-6 centimetres. Great for starting off seedlings. Then you have your sort of more common methods of, these are called a cell tray or a module. Each one of these is called a station. Don't know why, it just is. Now when you buy them, sometimes you'll get this, a base tray which may have holes in it as well, and a clear lid which will look something like, found down here, sat on a cauliflower, like this. That's sold as a propagator, not a heated propagator, it's just a normal propagator. And that means basically you can control the humidity. It stops your plants from drying out, but some plants you need to let a bit of air in now and then, otherwise it can get stagnant, which means you can also get propagators, which I have one on go here, just a little one like that, and the lid on it, this little slide thing which opens, which will allow some air into it. It's just a solid tray, and I've got these out of a windowsill box. Just basically 4 stations in each one, and they've got some little lettuce in them. They're about a week old, something like that they are. Put the lid on. When I first sold them, I kept it closed until I just seen them prick through, and then I opened it, and I can control the humidity. You don't want it so there's sat in soggy wetness all the time, because they do need air. Also, these things, which used to be called peat pockets, they're just basically a bit like cocoa peat, but they don't contain peat. These ones don't. I don't think they're as good as they used to be. They're not dead cheap, but they're not dead expensive either. You can get them on eBay. Come in packs of 50, and give you a close up what they look like. Look like a chunk of wood, really. Like, how can I grow something in that? And the trick is, I've got a little tray with some water in here. Warm water makes it a bit quicker. So basically I'll plop this in there and I'll come back to it in a minute. So that's in there doing its business. Just quickly talk about things that you might have laying around the house. Might have some like fruit punnets. There's nothing wrong with putting something in there. I'll just close this door, banging about. It's that windy outside. Right, where was I? Right, yeah. Fruit punnets. Put your compost in there, fill it about, not right to the top, for about ½ inch to an inch below the top. Put your seeds in there, cover them with a bit of compost, get something of similar size, don't have to fit together perfectly, and set that on the top. And then you would have a little propagator, or you could use it, say, that I've got laying around in here, like this little pot here, it's got some more lettuce in. So I want to put that in there, and I also want to put a couple of baby cabbages, which are sold in the Asda trays. Well, they're actually sold in a big cell tray and then individually pricked out. So 2 cabbages, you could say, right, I want to put them in there. So you've got all 3 items in there. You could say, oh, it's a bit chilly. Put that on there. You can get a big elastic band or a little bit of string and just tie it around there to keep it down secure. That's brilliant, and that will keep it a few degrees higher and protect them from frost. So you can use anything as long as it's clear. You're okay. I mean, there's other things you can use like for this, which is, I'll get it out, a zip seal bag. Get them all sorts of sizes. You could get massive ones, but you could say, right, I'll put that in there, and that works just as well. And you can also put taller things in there, which is sometimes with the lids, when you buy them you get really shallow lids, which is okay until your seedlings hit them. So that's an option. You can use these for actually starting your seeds and for seedlings. Pop these back where I got them from. I'll just pull this block out of here a second just to let it sit for a moment. So that's that. Might come back to that bag yet, I don't know. Right, pop bottle. Most people have some form of pop bottles knocking around. This happens to be a Coke bottle, one of the, I think it's 1.5 litre ones, the weird shaped ones, but standard shape will work too. There's a few different things you can do with this. Now I've cut it into 3. I've cut the bottom off, I've cut the top half off, but I've also got the middle bit. Now that has a couple of uses. I'll do the middle bit first. So you could say, I've got a pot, but they're all a bit small in depth. But you could use these, you could cut a slit down it, squeeze it to what size you want, shove it in your pot, put it with your compost, you have an instant pot extension. Easy peasy. And then they're a bit like a root tray. When you come to tap it out, you can pull it out and you'll have a big solid lump of compost inside there with all the roots in, so you can just say, right, how do I get it out of there? Just open it. So they're a bit like a root trainer. Now root trainers, I've got one somewhere. I'll get another one out. These are root trainers. I don't usually use these, just because I'm a bit lazy that way. But the idea behind these is you can open them out, and if you look in there, you can see all your roots, and you can pull each individual one out and plant it. And then they slot back up, and then you just fill them with compost again, and you have a little tray that they all sit in. It's So they are a good idea. They're also nice and deep as well, so they're good for that. Right, so we covered the. Oh, you can also use if you wanted to put around a seedling in the ground. You know, there's a bit of a wind break because they can get snapped by the high winds hitting them. Another thing, most people have toilet rolls. You can fill them with compost. Use half ones. Water them and everything. Plant your seed in it. The only thing is you don't have to do is you don't have to get the stuff out. You just plant the whole thing, toilet roll and all. Just make sure it's well watered before you plant it though, because this needs to be wet when it goes in the soil tip, because this will break down. So I do broad beans, runner beans, I've done peas in these, I've also done cabbage in these. So they're fine, and people use them for onions, garlic, anything like that. So instead of throwing it in your bin, one, you might as well use it for a plant pot, and two, you might as well use it to make compost. So it's a win-win. Pot noodle bottle, should I say, bottle. Prick some holes in the bottom. That's a good sized plant pot. Right, you can house probably a good sized tomato plant before it goes outside or into a grow bag. There's other things, if you want to put it in a grow bag, you can say, right, well, I mean, you'd probably go in another pot up from this in size. You'd cut the bottom off, only like the bottom ½ inch. Cut a slit in your grow bag or wherever you're going to plant it, and just shove the pot into it like that. Don't bury it right down, just leave it sort of that poking out, and your tomato roots will just go through the pot. So that's what I tend to grow through pots like that in grow bags. I've not quite decided what I'm going to do this year in here yet, so I'm going to say it's always ongoing. Pot bottle now, you've got this bottom bit, put compost in that. Don't have it too shallow, you want it at least a couple of inches deep. Put compost in that, sow your seeds, get your other half and set it on top. Now you have your straight away a little propagator, and you've also got the joy of having a lid that you can take off to control the moisture. If you do that, you can either go steady with watering or put some holes in the bottom. If you don't put holes in the bottom, you can also use this as a drip tray for a pot like that. It doesn't touch the bottom, but it'll be humid in there because that's kind of a fairly tight seal, and you'll find roots coming through, dipping into the water. And and if you've got a lid on it, well, the whole humidity effect takes the moisture right throughout the whole thing, and then you can use this to put in there. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. It might not look professional or anything like that, but it doesn't matter. You can buy all this top-notch stuff. At the end of the day, it's just make use of what you have, because you could be just throwing away items that are perfectly fine. As I say, your vegetables aren't going to complain about it. At the end of the day, they're going to go in the ground, or into bigger pots, and it doesn't matter where they started. Right, so we'll have a look at this block of wood thing, this cocoa peat. As you can see now, I'll get another one. That's what it started like. When you soak it in water, it puffs up like that, and they give you a little impression in the top, little tiny dimple. It's just there, and you put your seed in that, and you can get a few of them. Line them up in one of these, put your lid on. It's like a self-contained pot. Your seedling will grow, and when you come to plant it out, plant the whole thing either into the ground or into a pot. Right, so I think we're nearly getting near the end of actual trays and everything. We'll just talk about a few items. That is called a dibber. A dibber is just basically an item for making a little dent in the soil to put your seedling in. And these are used for pricking out seedlings, little tiny, for lifting the roots out and putting them into bigger pots. Don't necessarily need them. There's nothing wrong with you using a pencil. That's perfectly fine. I mean, I used to use a pencil and an old flat spoon handle, pricking out. I still do sometimes now. It depends. If I put these down somewhere I can't find them, the old pencil comes back out. Other seedlings, you can just do the seeds with your finger. Just put a little depression in the top. your finger, cover them with compost, that's fine. Most people have fingers, most people have pens and pencils, so you don't have to go out and buy anything specially. Plant labels, use whatever you like, lollipop sticks, cut up bits of plastic, anything. Use either pencils or razor sharpie, a little permanent marker. Pencils are okay, but sometimes it just washes off after a while. It's okay on say lollipop sticks if you put pencil on and then put a little bit of sticky tape over it. Kind of stops it from washing off so fast. About potting on things, if you start something in something like that, you could go from that size to say that size, but it's not really much of a size. You don't want to jump too much. I mean, you don't want to stick something like that in a great big foot pot. It's not going to help it. You go for something that size, put it in there, and then you grow it on, and then maybe go into, say, try and find something slightly bigger, like a 4-inch pot, like that. No, that's perfectly fine. This is a strawberry plant. This. Some runners. We'll go into that another time about strawberry runners. So don't go out and buy an absolute load of strawberry plants because you don't need them. Just get a few to start with, and then they'll produce more for generations. So we'll have a quick look now, I think, at sowing some seeds. Right, we're going to look at some sowing seeds now, and just basic compost. This is B&Q's multi-purpose compost. I like to sieve it to get rid of some of the big lumps out. Don't throw the big lumps away because you've paid for it, and they are perfectly okay to use in a bigger pot when the plants get a bit more established, or use it for a top dressing. So I'll just run it through sieve just to get the bigger. I mean, you can run it through an even finer sieve if you want. There's no real need. I mean, this is okay. Right, that's that done. Make a bit of room. So that's perfectly fine to use like that. I like to help it a little bit more, but I've got some. It's just silver sand. It's dead cheap, and there's no real set mix. I just sort of like just lob it on. Another thing I like to use is perlite or vermiculite. Perlite, how can I describe it? It looks a bit like polystyrene. It just aids in drainage, but it also retains moisture as well. Not going to go bad with it. Right, so that's all I do, and then just mix it all up. It's a bit easy if you've got a big tub, but I'm just mixing it on this just for the camera purpose. And the sand helps the drainage too, and it helps just open the structure up to let air in. This way, if you have your compost like really fine, it can compact down and like pretty much suffocate the plant. So after you've spent however long you feel like playing with it, when you're happy and it starts to feel like, yeah, that feels nice and fluffy, and you can feel the little bits of sand in there too, and you think, yeah, that'll be fine. That. So that's the compost mix. I'd probably use for all my seedlings everything. That way you could grow pretty much anything in that. Like I say, you can sieve it down finer if you want. I do have a hell of a lot finer sieve, which is this. Not sure what size holes it is, but it's not actually a garden sieve, it's actually for fishing. It's a ground bait sieve. It's actually cheaper than buying it from garden centre, but it's very fine. And it takes a long time to sift through as well. The other thing I find useful is I have a little, I call it a seedling sieve. And basically when you put your seeds on the top, you can just sieve it lightly or to cover them, but you don't have to have that. You know, you kind of got things that you could you could use. Let's see what I've got here. I can use, just get one of these plant pots, holes in the bottom, compost in it. You can shake that about. Not perfectly, like I said, it takes a little bit longer. It just means you're not burying your seedling in massive, or your seed in massive chunks of compost. So, right, let's get some pots filled. I'm not going to sow a load because this is more for demonstration than anything, because I've already got a lot of seedlings. 3, 4, 5. Right, get your pots, scoop it in, just comb it off level like that. And I just like to not press it down, because when you water it, it's going to settle it. I mean, you can press it lightly if you want, use the bottom of another pot, but you really don't want to force it down. It'll settle of its own accord. Then again, set it off, tamp it down, and you'll find that it'll near enough settle to the actual line below it. So when you put water in, it'll soon go down. Probably one of my favourite things to do is seed sowing and potting on. And really it should be the harvest, but I think a lot of people just like that feeling of growing something from a seed. Right, so I'll just make sure they're nice and flat on top, no big lumps in the way. Right. So let's see what I've got in my pocket to sow. These are a cucumber, if I can get in the packet. Bought from a company called Simply Seed. You can get it from anywhere, it doesn't matter where you get your seeds from, as long as they're fairly reliable. These are an F1 variety, these. I'm not going to go into any details about that. F1s are just dearer to buy, and in that pack there is 5 seeds. They're cucumber seeds. They're kind of a bit like a sunflower seed shape, they're quite flat. Some people plant them on their end, but I like to plant them on their edge. So I'm just going to put 1 in each pot, because they're going to stay in these pots for a while. So I'll just bring it up to the camera so you can see. So I'm going on its edge. I'm just going to push it in about a centimetre or so down, and it kind of ends up at like a bit of a 45-degree angle, and just roll that over. That's 1. Same again with that. Push it in. That's that. I'm going to do 2 of them for now. Now they are a variety to be grown in a greenhouse. I do grow some outside. The seeds you want for them, which I find are more reliable, are called market law. They're a good reliable cropper, but there's lots of different, as long as it says that you can grow outdoors as well. Some better than others. Usually outdoor ones you don't have to mess about picking male flowers off. So that's a different subject. It starts getting a bit complicated, that. So I'm going to label them in a minute. No, I'll label them now. Cheapy plant markers from Asda, £1 for a pack. Excuse me. Right, so that's Fem Spot. It's getting hot in here now. Sun's beaming at me. Put my thermometer on to see how hot it is. It's 30 degrees. Well, it's 29.9. Fem Spot. Now to water them you can use a spray, a very little watering can, or get a pot bottle with some holes in the lid and just, you know, very tiny holes, and just give them a water over. Don't drown them. So the worst thing that people do is they drown the seeds. You think it's not germinating, it must be too dry. No, if the pot feels that you felt it when you filled it like that and that's dry, when you water it you'll know the weight difference, and you can pick a pot up and say that needs some water. It's just a judgment that you sort of build up over time. Right, what should we do next? What have we got here? So I've got some market more there, cucumbers. What's that? Chard. What else we got here? Oh, got some tomatoes. I'll sort. I've got plenty of tomatoes. I don't need any more, but I'll sow this just so you can see. If I can get in this packet. And these are Alicante. I always grow Alicantes because they're really reliable. We've got a nice cherry tomato that's easy to grow. Is Gardener's Delight. I'm going to grow this in this little peat pocket. So I'm actually going to put 2 seeds in, just in case there's any failures. Now tomato seeds look like tomato seeds. When you get a tomato and you bite into it, and all little bits, they're the seeds. Also, now you can see that, because I can't even see my screen. Tomato seeds. And where's a little tiny hole in the top of this? I'm just going to pop them in. I'm just going to use just a thin object just to make sure they're not actually sat on top of one another. Just push them side by side. What I like to do, I like to get a little tiny pinch compost. Not press it down, just pat it, because I don't want to get it too wet in there. And you could leave that like that if you want, or put it in a pot. I'm just going to put it in a pot over here for now. So that's basically a tomato ready to go, and it will stay in there for about 6 weeks. Then you'll put it in a bigger pot. Get rid of them seeds. Alright, what else we're going to sow now? We'll sow some lettuce. And what I'll do, I'll sow it in this little contraption. So, take my compost, pat it down. Don't fill it right to the top after it's patted down. It's perfectly fine. Like, you can just add a little bit more. You want it below the level, because you don't want it when you water it eventually for it to all water to spew out everywhere. When you plant seeds in like module trays, I like to try and put 1 or 2 seeds per station, so you don't end up with too much wastage, really. Now these are Bionda. They're a romaine lettuce. I tend to grow romaine lettuce because you can put them close together, and I don't really like the big loose floppy leaf lettuce. Like all these here, these are all romaine. I'm just going to get a few seeds and just sprinkle them over the top. Maybe about 6. And then you could use a little sieve to sieve it over, or get your little pot and do the shaky biz. But because it's already been sieved, I'm not too fussy with this. Don't bury him too deep. You only want about 2 to 3 times the depth of the seed. Just tap it down. And then water. I would water it now, but I've no water in here. You get your cover like that. So I'll do another label for that. remain. I don't put all the details on, like dates and stuff, because you can put them in a separate diary if you want. I'm going to shove it there. Easy as that. So, it used to be a Coca-Cola bottle. Now it's a propagator. Put that over there. Right, what else can we sow? Let's have a look. Peas, I'll give you a demo and show. I'm going to sow some peas after, but I'll show you how you do them in pots. These are an early pea, you can do all peas this way. Runner beans as well if you want. Runner beans, I just put 1 or 2 to a pot. Pot this size, 3 peas. That. All I'm going to do is make 3 little indentations with my dibber, or pencil, whatever you want to get, just so you can kind of work out what's even. Draw your pea, top of each hole, and then just press them down with your finger. Same again, 2 to 3 times depth of the actual seed itself. Bit of compost, water it, label. Them peas are called Feltman first. They're an early pea, they're a dwarf, they don't get very tall. So, felt them. That's peas done. Not going to do chard. It's a bit like the same way you do beetroot. Cabbage. I've got stacks of cabbage. I don't really need to sow this, but I'll do one for a demo. I like to take a bit more care when I'm doing my cabbage, because I grow a lot of cabbage. Gonna pop some compost in there. Now I like to make 3 holes. Well, I can put more. I can put probably get 5 in this pot. 5 holes, not that deep. Only about 5 millimeters. Just put 1 seed in each hole. Give you a close up on that. It kind of looks like little holes in. And then a little sprinkle of compost. Tap it down. Give it a water. And then chuck your label in. Job done. So you water all them. Put a lid over them. Don't let them dry out. You know, if you've got somewhere you can put them, you don't have to have a lid on them. So you can put them in a bag. You know, zip seal bag. There's my cell tray. Right, remember to bring my water bottle, so I'll just quickly water everything. My lettuce. Bit of quick. So the first watering, you give it a bit, and then you can give it a little bit more. It should feel a little heavier. You're best off adding a little at a time rather than just drowning it. Put that over there. Cucumbers, some peas. You shouldn't always water your plants from the top. As they start to grow, you need to water from the bottom. You need to get them to send roots down. Big roots, big plants, and healthier plants. So I'll say it's my water bottle. Just a pop bottle, a hole, you know, burn it into it. Just got a little pin, warmed it up. Easy as that. Cabbage. There's that. I say most of these have just been sown for an example, you know, because I've got a load of seedlings already. But my fem spots, they will be put to use. It's actually 34 degrees in here now. Whew, better get cracking. Right, I've got some more compost down here. fairly similar, it's just a little bit more sand in this. Makes I can't bother mixing anymore. Mix two of them together. Shove all that to the back. This is a 40 station tray. The compost, lob it all. This is where these big trays are handy. You know, otherwise you have to spend forever clearing up and the compost just gets everywhere. Just keep rubbing it over the top, just keep adding some, I'm not pressing down. And basically get your tray, move it around. Camera might shake here, and just drop it like that, and that'll settle everything down. And I'm going to get my little dibber thing, and I'm just going to make little holes in the middle of everyone. Well, near enough the middle. Feel a lump when you push it in. Just pull it out. Right, that's that done. Peas, Hurst green shaft, my favourite pea to grow these. They're very reliable, very good yielder. Sown straight in the ground. I like to pre-soak them before I put them in the ground, but as it's earlier in the year and the weather's still a bit unstable, I'm going to set my first batch off in this tray. It'll hold 40. I don't know how many I need, I'll just keep sowing until I fill up wherever they're going. Now these are going to be grown at my allotment, so if you want to follow these you have to go and have a look at my allotment videos. They won't be going in the ground for about another at least 3 weeks, these. Like that peas, they're nice big seeds. That's 40. Just use my finger, just press each one down till they're about 1.5 centimetres down from the actual top. A peas like a lot of water to actually germinate, but you can overdo it and they'll rot. The only reason I pre-soak them is because mice like them. So if you pre-soak them for about an hour, it swells them up, so they actually germinate in the ground a lot faster. You know, if your soil's wet anyway, then it's, well, moist. You should never really sow anything in soaking wet water in ground, because you'll just rot everything. Right, it's 40 peas there. Compost back over the top. Just bury the whole thing. You're rocking it about. And just scoop it off. Move your compost out of the way if you want to get it all soaking wet. Now somewhere, wherever it has gone, here it is, hiding down here. Put it in my tray. Good water in there. I'm going to put them somewhere, not in direct sunlight, not until they, because it'll just dry out too quick, and this in a polytunnel they'll just cook the seeds. So that's pretty much what I'm going to venture on there. Well, most of the seeds sowing that's indoor. I will be doing some outside, so we'll be covering them in a moment. Right, so that's basically sowing. Now we're going to move on to planting. Right, this is the fun part. I'm going to start actually planting this bed up with now. The only thing I've done since you've last seen it is I put some canes in at this end. They're going to be used at a later date. They're going to be for runner beans. It's too early to do the runner beans yet. So there's some seeds going to go in and some plants. So we'll just do each section at a time and maybe fill in a few gaps along the way with some faster crops. So I think we'll start off with one of everyone's favourites, and that's strawberries. Right, it's when that bucket comes in handy, because obviously you're putting pots in, you're going to take some compost out. So these are just strawberry plants. These this will be the first summer. These we'll go into how you get strawberry plants from existing plants later on in the year. Right, so I'm just going to put 3 in here. Basically, compost. Dig a hole. Don't need to dig much out, because remember it's still quite soft. You can just open your hole up. Just check it with the pot. Sits in okay. Thing with the strawberries, you don't want to overbury them. You need the actual top of the plant showing. Bit of tap. The roots there. Just tease them out a little bit around the sides. Don't need much. They're pretty hardy. And then plop it in. That's one. A bit of firming down. Next one about there. There we go, give it a squeeze, jiggle it about, it comes out. The root's a bit of a teasing. Pop in. Next one, we sort this camera out. Next one. Now I've got this little area free here. I'm going to zoom in on that. I'm actually going to sow some seeds there. Right, so just loosen your compost up on the top, which is no hard lumps in it. So just pat it down, not hard, just to make it flat. In that area, I'm going to grow some spring onions. Now spring onions are the same as normal onions and leeks. Plant them, you know, them in lines or in pots and pull them apart, thin them out and that. But, with spring onions it's easy to what they call broadcast the seeds. That means just sort of get them and just sprinkle them around the area that you intend growing them in. Don't maybe put too many in because you can thin them out a bit later if you want, or just get a lot of little tiny spring onions. The variety of these are Ishikura. They're a Japanese bunchy onion. So them seeds are there. This compost that I've pulled out of the bed already. And to get that, just give it a bit of a covering. Don't need too much. In a few weeks it should start appearing. I'm not taking any of the real companion planting into consideration with this bed. You know, this is just basically get something growing. So that's the spring onions. You can label it if you want, or you can draw a diagram of what's planted where. Right, so next we're going to move along to this space here. So next up's going to be onions. So I'm going to do the square foot principle, and I'm going to put 9 in that. I'll say I might put 6. Let's have a look. Yeah, just going to do 6. If you want to do 9, you just put another one across like that. Gives you your 9 growing stations. But yeah, I'll just do 6. Just to get a slightly bigger onion. So use 6, so you can just go dib, 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 like that. There's your 6 spaces. Get some, and you know, these have already been growing for a while. Just get them out this tray. These are actually a mammoth onion. But they won't get mammoth in this, I don't think. Therefore, number 2. 1. So you have, well, get your little props off now, they can stand up for their own now. Three, 4, 5, 6. And the trowel. So just make a little hole. Pop your onion in. Don't worry if it's not dead straight, it'll stand itself up. Should do anyway. And just firm it in. Not too hard. Same for this one. Make your hole. Pop your onion in. So planting out is quite easy, it's like instant results. So I will say it is easy if you're growing in trays, and then you're actually planting plants out rather than putting seeds out, because as the seeds are growing you've got weeds to contend with. Just re-fluff the soil up, and once the roots latch in they'll all stand up, well, they don't get battered by winds. Right, so that's onions done. Next up is garlic. Same again, some garlic I set off in a tray. So same again, 6 holes. I'll tell you what, no, I'm just going to do 3 garlic, I think, because they're in the ground for a while. It's the garlic, and I've got a nice area here. I'll do a bit of a cheat on that. What I'll do with that, I think, is split it into 2. There. In that little space, plant some lettuce. These the ones that are in the root trainers, loads of roots on them. Even got a worm in here already. Now, this is where you start having the problems against slugs and things like that. A bit of gentle firm down. These lettuce are about 5 weeks old and grown in the cold weather. So obviously if you sowed anything now it would start quicker. That's 2 there. And then we'll go over to the carrots now, I think. Right, I'm going to sow some carrots. So I've marked this out for 16. So little depressions now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. They're all dimpled in now. So I'm just going to use the end of my trowel handle because it's flatter just to highlight them a bit. You don't want to do them too deep either. Most importantly, you need your carrot seeds. These carrot seeds are a bit old, so they might not germinate. It said sow by December, just gone, so hopefully they'll be alright. If not, I'll just have to get some more. The variety is called Flyaway because you have to watch for carrot root fly. So I'm just going to put just a few seeds, or whatever falls out. It might be 3, 4, 5, 6 in each sort of depression, and then pick the best one that comes up, and just simply get a pair of scissors and cut the tops off the other one, and then it would just 1 carrot per station then. That's if they germinate. I'm going to use a bit of this compost I use for seeds. Just give each one a bit of a covering. Give one about 5 mil, something like that. Plenty enough. And just smooth them around. Oh, that's carrots done. So as you can see, I've got all this cane work here. It's a bit like, you can see me, it's like being in prison. Now these are going to be for runner beans. They're not ready to go in yet, but I'm not going to just leave this ground doing nothing. I have some lettuce, it's not actually far off ready. I'm going to put one of them in there. Might put 2, I don't know, I'll see. These have been growing right through the winter. They're called winter density. I'll put 2 in there actually. I'll put a spiky one as well, which is called endive or endive. Like that, I think. I'll put frizzy one at the front there, and a big leafy one at the back. I might be able to get more in actually. No, we'll leave it at that. Get the trowel. Try and get in here to do this. That's the endive. Because lettuce don't like full sun all day long, they get a bit burnt off it. Get me winter density. Put that fella in there. There's that. So I've got another area here to use. So what shall I put in that? Put more lettuce. Put 2 lettuce this way because I'm going to put something else in as well. 1, 2. Just nestle it down. Now, once they get to about this size, sow some more in trays. Unless if you're going to have these and keep picking them and letting them grow back. Right, so I'm going to put the back here. I'm actually going to put some leeks. So I'll go and get them. Got me leeks. First of all, I need to work out the spacings. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a piece of dowel in here. I need to make a hole for leeks. Just push that right down. Just wiggle it around. There's your holes. To get your leeks. And this is just some backups I've got, so I'm going to get rid of them now. Just need to break them up. There's 1, 2. 3, 4. 5. So what you do with these, try and get the roots. You might need to use something like a cane or something. You can snip the roots down a bit, but I tend to not like doing that. Just give them a poking down. That's one. Two. A variety of these are called Porvite. I've never done them before. This variety, I usually do Musselburgh, which are a very reliable crop. Just 4. And the last one. Some people think I'm being a bit brutal with these, but they can take it. They are pretty hardy leeks. And then I'm not going to fill them in. What I'm going to do is use this bottle of water. I'll fill each hole to the top and let it sink. Now just help settle the roots in and wash any compost onto the roots. That's all you have to do. And then in this square, I'll put some early peas in. Trowel. Now, because I'm cramming quite a bit in here, these are some I've grown in pots. There's 2 to 3 seeds per pot. One more, I think. I think that'll be fairly crammed. Right, so what I'm going to do now, go down about 1 inch in front of these canes, push my trowel down like that, and go about 2 or 3 inches the other side, and scoop that, and I'm just going to move it to the front. bit like a little trench out. You can sow them direct into this, there's no problem doing that. It's just like I say, this is just to show you what you can actually put in a bed. There's some roots on these. Look at them, plenty of roots. So first one, pop it over there. Just going to sort of lean it into this string, it'll attach itself. And just space them out till kind of fairly evenish. Just once you've got hold of the actual trellis thing or whatever, you don't, any old netting, whatever you want to put up, twigs, anything, old branch cuttings. Once they've got hold of themselves, that's it, you're alright. And then just carefully and that way, then take a scoop, just tease it in the back. Just give them a gentle firming and carefully scoop the rest of your compost just under there. So it's just a case of trying to fan them out until they've chosen the path they want to take. You try and keep them contained, because obviously there's going to be other plants being planted elsewhere. Now pea roots don't like getting hot. I know what I'll put there. I'll put some spring greens. Try and get some spring greens before the cabbage whites eat them. I can use my fingers. Poke 2 holes. These are very young. Just nestle them in. They do like to be quite firm, any member of the brassica family. So you can go right down to the first 2 leaves. And they will benefit from any nitrogen that the pea roots put into the ground, and as these grow they'll keep the pea roots cool. So we're left with 2 empty areas, so I'm going to plant some more lettuce. Right, so there you have it. That's the end of episode 3. It's been a long one, but there's been a lot been covered in this video. So you can watch it at your will again and again if you're just starting out. You know, you're not going to get success every time. So we've got a fair bit planted. We've got what, 4, 8, 10, 12 lettuce, 6 onions, 3 garlic, 3 strawberry plants, some peas, some spring onions, some carrots. So next things will be things like runner beans, tomato plants, cucumbers, and courgettes, and without forgetting we've got potatoes in the bags as well. So there could be other things, like a courgette plant will end up being in that bucket. That's where it'll end up. The courgette plants are very, very productive. If they grow right and happy, you can get a lot off them. I can't even remember if I said leeks. So we've got leeks as well, 5 leeks. So it's not so much what's cost effective that I put in, it's just show you what you can grow. You could put 12 potato plants in this, no sorry, 9 potato plants in this if you wanted to. You just fill it with strawberries and have it as a strawberry bed. You could just have 4 of these and just use them like raised beds. You know, if you don't have to use a square foot gardening, it just keeps things in order. I mean, I've got garlic and onions and some leeks here, a member of the alliums family, which is supposed to deter carrot root fly. But they don't like being grown next to peas or beans. But because there's a partition, I'm not too concerned about that. Lettuce will grow with pretty much anything. Strawberries will grow in most things, but I've shoved them out of the way in a corner because they can overhang the sides then. So all I've got to do now is just hope that the weather's on their side, don't get too much frost, and the bugs stay away, especially snails. There's a big fat pigeon up there, I've got to keep an eye on them, but that's just gardening for you. So hope you've enjoyed this episode, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye.